A storm began before sunset. Mara Whitlow held the reins with frozen hands, while her 3 children huddled behind her in the wagon. Caleb was 12. He tried to look brave. Nora was 8. She held her little brother Eli close. Eli was only 5 and still asked when their father would come home. But their father was buried 2 winters ago. Since then Mara had learned that a widow with children was seen as weak by cruel men. That was why she had left the town of Red Creek. She wanted a new life near Fort Mercy. Work, food, a roof. Nothing more. But the road had broken her before she reached it. The wagon wheel cracked. Near a dry canyon. The horse went lame, and the sky turned black with dust. Mara climbed down and looked at the broken wheel. Caleb stood beside her. "What do we do now, Ma?" Mara forced herself to breathe. "We stay together." Then she heard riders. 4 men appeared through the dust. Their coats were dirty. Their faces were hard. The tallest one smiled when he saw her. "Well now." A widow on the road. Mara pushed the children behind her. "We have nothing worth taking." The man looked at the children. Then at her. "I will decide that." Caleb grabbed a small knife. His hand shook. The men laughed. Mara's heart beat so hard she could barely hear the wind. Then an arrow struck the ground between them. Everyone froze. On the ridge above the canyon stood an Apache warrior on a dark horse. He did not shout. He did not threaten. He only watched. His silence was stronger than a gun. The tall man cursed. "Apache." The warrior raised one hand. More Apache riders appeared along the rocks. The outlaws understood. They backed away slowly. One of them tried to grab a sack from the wagon. Another arrow landed near his boot. He dropped the sack and ran. Soon the riders vanished into the storm. Mara turned to the warrior. He came down from the ridge slowly. His face was calm. His eyes were serious. "My name is Dakota," he said. Mara held Eli close. "I am Mara." Dakota looked at the broken wheel. Then at the children. "You cannot stay here tonight." Caleb stepped forward. "We are not going anywhere with strangers." Dakota looked at the boy with respect. "You protect your family. That is good." Caleb lowered the knife a little. Dakota turned to Mara. "There is water in our camp. Food. Fire. You may leave when your wagon is repaired." Mara did not trust easily. Life had taken that from her, but the storm was coming fast. And her children were cold. She nodded. "We will come." Dakota ordered his men to help. They lifted the bags. They covered the children with blankets. Then Dakota walked to the injured horse. He touched its leg gently. "This horse cannot pull." Mara looked away. That it belonged to her husband. Takode seemed to understand. "We will care for it if we can." Those words surprised her. He did not speak like a man who took. He spoke like a man who honored life. As they rode toward the hidden canyon, Eli looked at Dakota. "Are you a good man?" Dakota was silent for a moment. Then he said, "I try to be." Mara heard the answer. For the first time in many months, fear loosened inside her chest. Not completely, but enough to breathe. She did not know yet that this warrior carried a secret tied to her dead husband. A secret he would not reveal until the very end. The Apache camp was hidden. Deep inside the canyon. Tall cliffs protected it from the outside world. A clear river flowed nearby. Children laughed between the lodges. Women prepared food near the fires. Mara was surprised. The camp felt peaceful. Nothing like the stories she had heard in town. An elderly Apache woman named Ayana welcomed her family. She gave them blankets and a place to sleep. That night, for the first time in weeks, Mara's children slept without fear. The next morning Caleb woke early. He expected to see warriors training for battle. Instead, he saw men repairing tools, gathering wood, and helping elders. Dakota was among them. The warrior carried water for an old man whose legs no longer worked well. Caleb watched silently. Back in Red Creek, few men helped anyone without wanting something in return. Later that day, Eli found Dakota near the river. The little boy sat beside him. "What are you making?" "A fishing spear. Can I help?" Dakota nodded. For the next hour, Eli talked without stopping. Dakota listened patiently. When they returned to camp, Eli proudly carried the finished spear. Mara noticed something she had not seen in a long time. Her son was smiling. Days passed. The wagon wheel was repaired. The horse slowly recovered. Yet Mara delayed leaving, partly because the children were happy, partly because she felt safe. A feeling she barely remembered. One evening she sat beside the river alone. The sunset painted the canyon walls red and gold. Footsteps approached. Dakota stopped several feet away. "I hope I am not disturbing you." "You aren't." For a moment they listened to the water. Then Dakota spoke. "Your children are strong." Mara smiled faintly. "They had no choice." "And their mother?" She looked down. "I am not as strong as they think." Dakota shook his head. "I disagree." Mara laughed softly. "You barely know me. I know you crossed dangerous lands alone with 3 children. His voice remained calm. Many people could not do that. No one had spoken to her that way before, not since her husband died. Most people saw her struggles. Dakota saw her courage. The thought stayed with her long after he left. A few days later, trouble arrived. A young Apache scout rode into camp at full speed. His horse was covered in sweat. The camp immediately grew silent. The scout spoke urgently to the elders. Dakota's face became serious. Several warriors gathered weapons. Mara felt a chill. That night she found Ayanna outside her lodge. "What happened?" "The old woman looked toward the darkness beyond the canyon. "There are men searching these lands." "What kind of men?" "Bad men." Mara's stomach tightened. The old woman lowered her voice. "They have attacked villages and travelers for years." "Why are they here?" Ayanna's eyes moved toward Dakota's lodge. "I believe they are looking for someone." Before Mara could ask another question, the old woman walked away. Later that night, Mara could not sleep. She stepped outside. A fire burned near the edge of camp. Tako sat alone beside it. His expression was distant, almost haunted. Mara approached carefully. "Are we in danger?" Dakota looked into the flames. "Perhaps. Because of those men?" He nodded. "Who are they?" For several seconds he said nothing. Then he answered. "Their leader is called Victor Kane." The name meant nothing to Mara, but Dakota's voice changed when he spoke it. There was anger there, and something else. Regret. Mara sat beside him. "Have you fought him before?" Dakota stared into the fire. "Yes." "Did you defeat him?" The warrior's eyes darkened. "No." The answer surprised her. Dakota looked like a man who never lost. Then he spoke quietly. "Some battles do not end when the fighting stops." Mara wanted to ask more, but she sensed the pain behind his words. So she remained silent. Above them, the stars filled the sky. Neither knew that Victor Kane was already closer than anyone imagined, and that his arrival would soon change all their lives forever. The next morning, the camp felt different. Warriors stood watch along the canyon walls. Scouts came and went throughout the day. Even the children noticed the tension. Caleb found Dakota repairing a saddle. "Are those men really coming here?" Dakota looked at him. "They may. Then let me help." The warrior almost smiled. "You are brave." "I am not a child." Dakota nodded, then learned something important. Caleb waited. A brave man does not look for danger. He protects others when danger arrives. The boy thought about those words all day. Meanwhile, Mara tried to focus on daily work. She helped prepare food and mend clothing. But her thoughts kept returning to Victor Kane. There was something in Dakota's eyes whenever the man's name was mentioned. Something heavy, something old. That evening, a scout returned. He spoke urgently with the elders. Soon afterward, Dakota gathered several warriors. They would leave. Before dawn, Mara found him near the horses. "You are going after Kane." Dakota tightened the saddle strap. "We are going to learn how close he is. And if you find him?" The warrior paused. "Then we will do what honor requires." Mara did not like that answer. That honor often led good men into danger. She knew that from experience. The next morning, Dakota and 6 warriors rode out of the canyon. The camp suddenly felt empty, especially to 3 children. Eli asked about him constantly. "When will Dakota come back?" "Soon," Mara answered, but she was not certain. 3 days passed, then 4. On the 5th day, trouble finally arrived. Not from outside, not from within. A trader reached the camp shortly before sunset. He brought supplies from distant settlements. As people gathered around his wagon, Mara froze. She recognized him. His name was Owen Mercer. Years ago he had worked near Red Creek. He recognized her too. "Mara Whitlow." She forced a smile. "Hello, Owen." The trader looked around. So the rumors were true. "What rumors?" "That you disappeared with your children." Several people nearby began listening. Owen lowered his voice. "Some men have been searching for you." Mara felt cold. "Who?" "I don't know. But they paid good money for information." Fear returned instantly. The same fear she had carried on the road. That night she could barely sleep. The next afternoon, Dakota returned. The moment Eli saw him, he ran across the camp. The warrior lifted the boy onto his horse. For a brief moment, everyone smiled. Then Dakota saw Mara's face. His expression changed immediately. Something was wrong. Later, she told him about the trader. About the men looking for her. Dakota listened carefully. When she finished, he became very still. Did Owen describe them? Only one. What did he say? Mara swallowed. He said the leader had a scar above his right eye. Dakota's jaw tightened. His hands closed into fists. Mara noticed instantly. "You know who it is." The warrior looked toward the canyon entrance. "Yes, Victor Kane?" Dakota nodded. A long silence followed. Finally, Mara spoke. "Why would a man like that be searching for me?" For the first time, Dakota seemed uncertain. As if he wanted to say something, but stopped himself. "I don't know yet." The answer felt incomplete. Mara could sense it. But before she could press further, a horn sounded from the northern ridge. One sharp blast. Then another. Every warrior in camp stood instantly. A scout raced down the slope. His horse was covered in dust. "There are riders approaching." The camp fell silent. "How many?" asked an elder. The scout's answer sent a chill through everyone. "At least 20. Dakota reached for his rifle. And far beyond the canyon walls, Victor Kane finally smiled. He had found exactly what he was looking for. The camp moved. Quickly. Women gathered the children. Elders were escorted to protected areas near the cliffs. Warriors took positions around the canyon entrance. Dakota stood among them. Calm. Focused. Ready. Mara watched from a distance. Her heart pounded. She had already lost one husband. The thought of losing another man she cared about frightened her more than she wanted to admit. An hour later, the riders appeared. Victor Kane rode at the front. He was tall and broad-shouldered. A scar crossed his forehead. Above his right eye, his smile was cold. He stopped outside bow. Range. Several armed men surrounded him. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Victor laughed. I only came for one. Woman. Dakota stepped forward. You will leave. Victor ignored him. His eyes searched the camp. Then he spotted Mara. There she is. Mara felt her blood run cold. She had never seen this man before, yet he looked at her as if he had known her for years. Victor pointed directly at her. Bring me the widow. Every Apache warrior immediately raised a weapon. Victor laughed again. I am not here for war. Dakota's voice remained steady. You brought 20 armed men because I expected resistance. His eyes shifted toward Dakota, and because of you. The two men stared at one another. Clearly this conflict was older than anyone realized. Finally Victor raised both hands. I will make this simple. He looked directly at Mara. Your late husband stole something from me. Mara frowned. My husband is dead. I know. Then what do you want? Victor's smile vanished. I want what he took. The camp became silent. Mara shook her head. I don't know what you're talking about. Victor studied her face carefully. Then he seemed to believe her. At least partly. That uncertainty made him angry. Search your memories. There is nothing to search. Victor's horse stepped forward. Immediately. Dozens of bows were drawn. The outlaw stopped. For a few seconds nobody moved. Then Victor finally turned his horse around. This is not over. His eyes returned to Mara. When you remember, I will be waiting. The riders slowly withdrew. Nobody relaxed until they disappeared completely. That evening the camp remained tense. Mara sat outside her lodge trying to understand what had happened. Her husband had been a miner, a decent man. Honest. At least she had always believed. So. Could he really have stolen something? Dakota approached quietly. You should rest. Mara looked at him. Tell me the truth. The warrior stopped. What truth? You know more than you're saying. Dakota remained silent. Mara stood. For weeks you have avoided certain questions. His eyes lowered briefly. And today that man came looking for me. Still silence. Dakota, her voice softened. If my husband was involved in something dangerous, I deserve to know. The warrior looked away toward the river. For the first time she saw uncertainty in him. Finally he spoke. I am trying to protect you. From what? Before he could answer, Caleb came running through the camp. Mom. Mara turned. The boy was breathing hard. What happened? I found something. He held an old leather pouch. I found it hidden inside the wagon. Mara frowned. The wagon had belonged to her husband. She had never seen the pouch before. Dakota's expression changed instantly. He recognized it. Mara noticed. You know what this is? The warrior slowly nodded. Caleb handed the pouch to his mother. With trembling fingers. She opened it. Inside was a folded map. And a small silver medallion. The moment Dakota saw the medallion, all color left his face. Mara stared at him. What is it? The warrior whispered only 3 words. I thought it was lost. And at that moment, Mara realized the secret surrounding her husband was far bigger than anyone had imagined. The fire crackled softly as everyone stared at the silver medallion. Mara looked from the object to Dakota. You know this? The warrior nodded slowly. Yes, Then tell me. Dakota picked up the medallion carefully. His hands were steady, but his eyes were not. This belonged to a man named Daniel Cross. Mara frowned. I've never heard that name. Most people have not. Dakota unfolded the map. Several elders gathered around. The moment they saw it, they exchanged worried looks. Mara noticed immediately. What is it? One elder answered. Many years ago, gold was discovered in these mountains. Caleb's eyes widened. Gold? The elder nodded. But the gold was never the important thing. He pointed toward the map. This map leads to a hidden valley. Mara looked confused. A valley? Dakota continued. The valley contains a spring. A spring? Water, the elder nodded. Fresh water that never dries. Now Mara understood Dot in these lands. Water was worth more than gold. Dot far more. The elder continued. Many people have searched for that valley. Victor Kane too? Dakota nodded. For years. Mara looked down at the map. Then my husband somehow found it? No. The answer came immediately. Everyone looked at Tak Ode. Dot. The warrior stared into the fire. He never found it. Then why did Kane come after him? Dakota hesitated. Dot, as though choosing his words carefully. Because Daniel Cross found it. Again that unfamiliar name. Mara crossed her arms. Who was Daniel Cross? Dakota looked at the medallion. A good man. Silence followed. Then the warrior continued. Years ago, Daniel traveled through these lands. He became friends with several Apache families. An outsider? Yes, the warrior nodded. He respected our people. And the map? Daniel discovered the hidden valley. The camp listened carefully, but he refused to sell the location. Why? Because greedy men would destroy it. The elders nodded in agreement. Tako continued. When Victor Kane learned about the valley, he hunted Daniel. Mara felt a chill. What happened? He disappeared. The fire popped loudly. Nobody spoke for several moments. Finally, Mara asked the question everyone was thinking. What does any of this have to do with my husband? Dakota looked at her. He worked with Daniel. Mara froze. My husband knew him? Yes, the answer shocked. Her husband had never mentioned such a man. Not once. Then another thought peered. Wait. She looked at the map. If Daniel disappeared, her voice grew quieter. How did my husband get this? No one answered. Not immediately. Even Dakota seemed troubled. Finally he spoke. That is the question, Victor. Kane has been trying to answer for years. The camp grew silent again. A cold wind moved through the canyon. Then suddenly a guard shouted from the ridge. Everyone stood. Another warrior came running. His face was pale. What happened? Asked an elder. The warrior pointed toward the river. We found a man? Dakota immediately grabbed his rifle. A scout? The warrior shook his head. No. Then who? The man swallowed hard. He says he escaped from Victor Kane. The camp became silent. Is he injured? Dakota asked. Badly. The stranger was carried into camp minutes later. His clothes were torn. His face was covered in dust. One eye was swollen shut. The moment he saw Mara, he tried to stand. You. Mara stared at him. She had never seen him before. Stranger pointed directly at her. His voice trembled. Victor is coming. We know. They... Man shook his head desperately. No, you don't understand. Everyone leaned closer. The stranger looked directly into Mara's eyes. Then he spoke. The words that changed everything. Victor, Kane believes your husband murdered Daniel Cross. The camp fell completely. Silent Dot, and for the first time, Mara began to wonder if she had ever truly known. The man she married, the stranger, collapsed. Moments after speaking, a healer rushed to help him. Mara stood, frozen. Her thoughts raced. Her husband had been many things. Stubborn. Quiet. Sometimes secretive. But a murderer? She could not believe it. She refused to believe it. Later that night, the stranger regained consciousness. Tako Mara, and several elders gathered around him. The man introduced himself as Ethan Cole. He had worked for Victor Kane for nearly 3 years. I thought he was only a traitor. Ethan said, I was wrong. What changed? Dakota asked. Ethan looked ashamed. I learned what he was really searching for. The valley? Asked Mara. Ethan nodded. And the map? Dakota crossed his arms. How did you escape? Ethan gave a bitter laugh. I overheard. Something I shouldn't have. Everyone waited. Ethan looked directly at Mara. Victor doesn't actually know whether your husband killed Daniel Cross. Mara frowned. Then why is he hunting me? Because he thinks your husband learned the truth before Daniel disappeared. The room became silent. Dakota exchanged a glance with the elders. Ethan continued. Victor believes your husband left clues somewhere. The wagon, Mara whispered. The hidden pouch. Ethan nodded. Exactly. For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Mara asked the question that haunted her. Did my husband know Daniel? Yes. The answer came immediately. Ethan leaned forward. They worked together for several months. Mara lowered her eyes. Another secret. Another part of her husband's life she had never known. Dakota watched her carefully. He could see the pain in her face, the uncertainty, the doubt, and he hated seeing it. The next morning, Mara walked alone beside the river. She needed space. She needed answers. Instead, she found Dakota waiting there. For a while, they simply watched the water. Finally, Mara spoke. What if Victor is right? Dakota looked at her. He is not. You don't know that. I do. Mara turned toward him. How? The warrior hesitated. For a brief moment, she thought he might finally reveal everything. But once again, he stopped himself. Because I knew your husband. Mara stared at him. You knew him? Only for a short time. Then why didn't you tell me? Dakota looked away. Because it was not my story to tell. Mara felt frustration rising. Everyone seemed to know pieces of the truth except her. My entire life is tied to this mystery. Her voice cracked, and nobody will tell me anything. Dakota stepped closer. His expression was calm, but his eyes were full of concern. When the time comes, I will tell you everything. Mara wanted to be angry instead. She saw honesty in his face, the same honesty she had seen since the day they met. Slowly, her anger faded. A moment later, they heard laughter. Eli was running along the riverbank. Caleb and Nora chased him. The children were happy. For the first time in years, they looked like a family healing from grief. Dakota watched them quietly. A small smile appeared on his face. Mara noticed. You care about them. The warrior nodded. Very much, and they care about you. Neither spoke after that. Because both knew the truth was becoming impossible to ignore. A bond had formed, not only between Dakota and the children, but between Dakota and Mara. Yet before either could speak about it, danger returned. A scout came racing into camp. His horse was exhausted. The warrior barely stopped before shouting, They are coming. Dakota immediately stood. How many? More than 40. The camp fell silent. Victor Kane had doubled his forces. The scout continued. They will reach the canyon tomorrow. Dakota looked toward the distant cliffs. The final confrontation was approaching. And hidden somewhere within it was the truth about Daniel Cross, the truth about Mara's husband, and the secret Dakota had carried for many years. The camp prepared through the night. Warriors repaired defenses. Scouts watched every trail leading into the canyon. No one slept much. Everyone knew Victor Kane was coming. At sunrise, Dakota gathered the warriors. We fight only if we must. Several younger warriors looked surprised. Victor Kane had caused suffering for many years. Some wanted revenge. Dakota wanted something different. Honor, not justice, not revenge. That was why people respected him. Later that morning, Mara found him near the horses. You think people can change, don't you? Dakota looked at her. Some can? And Victor? The warrior's expression hardened. No. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Mara asked a question that surprised even herself. Why have you never married? Dakota looked away. The answer did not come immediately. Finally, he said, because my path became complicated. Mara smiled faintly. That sounds like a way of avoiding the question. For the first time in days, Dakota laughed softly. Perhaps she was right. Before either could continue, Caleb came running. Riders! Everyone turned. A small group was approaching the canyon. Not 40 men, only 3. The camp immediately became alert. When the riders stopped outside the entrance, one raised a white cloth, sign of peace. Dakota rode forward with several warriors. The lead rider removed his hat. It was Victor Kane. Mara watched from a distance. Even from far away, she could see the tension between the two men. Victor spoke first. I came to talk. Dakota remained calm. You should leave. Victor ignored him. Instead, he looked toward Mara. I am offering one final chance. No one answered. Victor continued. Give me the map. We don't know where the valley is, Dakota said. Victor laughed. You may not. His eyes shifted toward Mara. But someone does. Mara stepped forward. I know nothing. For the first time, Victor seemed genuinely frustrated. Then he reached into his coat. I was hoping you would say that. He removed an old photograph. Even from a distance, Mara recognized the face. Her husband. The picture had clearly been taken years earlier. Victor held it up. He wasn't the man you thought he was. Mara felt anger rise. Stop. He lied to you. Stop. He kept secrets. Everyone keeps secrets. Victor smiled. Even Dakota? Silence. The smile on Victor's face widened. There it is. Dakota's expression changed instantly. Mara noticed. Victor noticed too. The outlaw looked directly at her. You should ask him who Daniel Cross really was. The camp fell silent. Dakota's hand tightened around his rifle. Victor slowly put the photograph away. I'll return tomorrow. Then he looked at Dakota one last time. When she learns the truth, she will never forgive you. A moment later, the riders turned and left. The camp remained silent long after they disappeared. That evening, Mara sat alone beside the river. Victor's words echoed in her mind. Who was Daniel? Cross? Why did Dakota know so much? And why was Victor so certain that the truth would destroy everything? Footsteps approached. Dakota stopped beside her. Neither spoke for several seconds. Finally, Mara looked at him. I am tired of secrets. The warrior nodded. So am I. Then tell me the truth. Dakota stared at the flowing water. For a long moment. Mara thought he would finally speak. Instead, he said something unexpected. Tomorrow. Mara frowned. Tomorrow? The warrior nodded. After Victor Kane is stopped. His voice was calm, but there was sadness in it. A sadness Mara did not understand. Not yet, because by the next sunset, the greatest secret of all would finally come into the light. Victor Kane returned the next morning. This time he did not come with 3 men. He came with all of them. More than 40 riders appeared beyond the canyon. Dust filled the air. Behind them, the Apache warriors took their positions. Women and children moved to safety. The entire camp stood ready. Dakota rode forward alone. Victor did the same. The 2 men stopped several yards apart. "This ends today," Victor said. Dakota nodded. "Yes." For a moment neither moved. Then Victor pointed toward the camp. "Give me the map and nobody dies." Dakota's expression remained calm. "You have spent years chasing greed." Victor laughed. "You still don't understand." His voice grew louder. "The valley belongs to whoever finds it. It belongs to no one." The argument ended there. Victor raised his rifle. Dakota immediately drew his own. The battle began. Gunfire echoed through the canyon. Horses screamed. Men shouted. Apache warriors fired from the rocks. Above, Victor's riders struggled to advance. The narrow canyon worked against them. Dakota moved through the chaos with remarkable calm. He protected others first. He always did. More than once he risked his own safety to save another warrior. Mara watched from a protected area near the cliffs. Her heart pounded every time she saw him disappear into smoke and dust. Hours seemed to pass. Finally, Victor's men began retreating. The canyon had defeated them, but Victor refused to give up. He broke away from the Yavup, fighting, and rode directly toward the camp, toward Mara. Dakota saw him instantly. He spurred his horse forward. Victor reached Mara first. He grabbed her arm. "You're coming with me." Mara fought back. Victor pulled harder. Then a horse slammed into his from the side. Tako. Both men hit the ground. The fight became personal. No rifles. No horses. Only 2 men facing years of hatred. Victor attacked first. Dakota blocked the blow. The outlaw struck again and again, but Dakota remained focused. Controlled. Disciplined. Finally, Victor pulled a hidden knife. Several people shouted warnings. The blade flashed in the sunlight. Victor lunged. Tako. Day moved aside. The outlaw stumbled. A second later, Dakota knocked the knife from his hand. Victor fell hard onto the rocks. For the first time, fear appeared in his eyes. The battle around them slowed. Everyone watched. Dakota could have killed him. No one would have blamed him. Victor certainly expected it. Instead, Dakota lowered his weapon. "It ends here." Victor stared at him. Confused. Double quote. "You won't do it." Dakota shook his head. "Justice and revenge are not the same thing." The words echoed through the canyon. Several of Victor's remaining men dropped their weapons. The fight was over. Victor Kane was finally defeated. As warriors secured the prisoners, Mara walked toward Dakota. Relief filled her chest. The danger was finally gone. Yet one question remained, the question that had haunted them all. Dakota looked at her. He seemed almost nervous. Mara had never seen that before. "You promised answers." The warrior nodded slowly. "Yes." Around them, the camp became quiet. Even the elders watched. Tako looked toward the silver medallion hanging around Mara's neck. Then he closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them again, his voice was barely above a whisper. "Tomorrow, I will tell you who Daniel Cross really was." Mara stared at him. "And the secret?" Dakota nodded. "The secret, too." For years, he had carried that burden alone. Now the truth was finally coming. And when it arrived, it would change Mara's life forever. The camp was quiet that evening. Victor Kane and his remaining men were guarded near the edge of the canyon. For the first time in many years, people felt safe. Yet Mara could not rest. The answers she had waited for were finally close. After sunset, Dakota asked her to walk with him. They followed the river away from the camp. The stars shone above them. For several minutes, neither spoke. Finally, Dakota stopped beside an old cottonwood tree. This is where it began. Mara looked around. What began? The truth. Dakota took a slow breath. Then he removed a small leather pouch from beneath his shirt. Inside was an old photograph. He handed it to her. Mara looked down. 3 men stood together in the picture. One was her husband. One was Daniel Cross. The third man made her freeze. It was a younger Dakota. Her eyes widened. You knew them both? Yes. Mara looked at him in disbelief. Who was Daniel? Dakota stared at the river. For years he had avoided this moment. Now there was no reason to hide. Daniel Cross was my friend. Mara listened carefully. We met when I was young. He respected my people. He lived among us for a time. And my husband? He met Daniel later. Dakota nodded. They became friends too. Mara looked at the photograph again. 3 friends, standing side by side, smiling. A lifetime ago. Then another question appeared. If you all knew each other, what happened? Dakota's expression darkened. Victor Kane happened. The warrior sat beside the river. Mara joined him. Years of memories seemed to return to his face. Victor learned about the hidden valley. The valley with the spring. Dakota nodded. He wanted control of it. And Daniel refused. Yes. The warrior looked toward the stars. So Victor hunted him. Mara's heart tightened. Did Victor kill Daniel? Dakota remained silent. For several seconds, only the river could be heard. Finally he answered. No. Mara frowned. No? Dakota slowly shook his head. The truth is much harder than that. A cold feeling moved through her chest. What do you mean? The warrior looked directly into her eyes. For the first time since they met, there were tears in his. My greatest regret is Daniel Cross. Mara felt her breath catch. Tako continued. Victor's men attacked us near the mountains. His voice grew quieter. Daniel and I were separated from the others. Mara listened without moving. There was fighting. The warrior lowered his eyes. A shot was fired. Silence. Then another. And another. Finally Mara whispered, What happened? Dakota closed his eyes. When the shooting stopped, Daniel was dead. The words hung between them. Heavy. Painful. Real. Mara stared at him. You killed him? The warrior looked broken. For years I believed I did. A tear rolled down his cheek. The sight shocked Mara. She had never seen Dakota cry. Never. I carried that guilt every day. His voice trembled. I thought I had killed my best friend. Mara could barely speak. And my husband knew this? Dakota nodded. He was there afterward. The river flowed quietly beside them. And Mara asked the question that mattered most. If Daniel died, then why has Victor hunted everyone for years? Dakota looked toward the distant camp. Because there was still one final truth, one final secret, and it was bigger than either of them imagined. The answer, Dakota said quietly, is that Daniel Cross never died that day. Mara froze. The world seemed to stop. What? Dakota looked at her. His eyes were filled with disbelief even now. The man who died that day was not Daniel. And with those words, the final mystery was finally ready to be revealed. Mara stared at Dakota. The man who died wasn't Daniel? Dakota slowly nodded. For years, that is what I believed. The river moved quietly beside them. Mara could hardly breathe. Then who died? A traveler who had been helping us. Dakota looked toward the stars. The fighting was chaotic. Smoke covered everything. When it ended, we believed Daniel was dead. But he wasn't. No? Mara sat in silence. Everything she thought she understood had changed. Then, where did Daniel go? Dakota smiled sadly. That is the secret Victor Kane never discovered. The next morning, Dakota gathered the elders, Mara and her children. Even Victor Kane was brought under guard. Everyone listened. Tako held up the silver medallion. Years ago, Daniel Cross survived the attack. Victor's face immediately changed. For the first time, he looked nervous. Dakota continued. Daniel learned that Victor would never stop searching for the hidden valley. The elders nodded. They already knew what greed could do. So Daniel made a decision. What decision? Mara asked. Tako smiled. He disappeared. The camp became silent. Dakota pointed toward the map. The map was never complete. Victor frowned. What are you talking about? Dakota unfolded the map. Then he tore away a small hidden piece sewn into the back. Gasps spread through the crowd. No one had known it was there. Not even Mara. Dakota revealed a short handwritten message. The writing belonged to Daniel. Mara's eyes widened as Dakota read it aloud. If you are reading this, I am already gone. The valley must never belong to greedy men. I leave its protection to those I trust. Victor stepped forward. Where is he? Dakota looked directly at him. Far beyond your reach. The outlaw's face turned red with anger. For years he had hunted a ghost. For years he had destroyed lives, chasing something he would never possess. Then Mara noticed something. Dakota had not finished reading. There was more. She pointed to the message. What else does it say? Dakota hesitated. For a moment, he seemed uncertain. Then he smiled, a genuine smile, the first completely peaceful smile she had ever seen from him. It says one more thing. The camp waited. Tako looked at Mara, then at her children, then back at the letter. If Mara Whitlow ever learns this truth, tell her that her husband was an honorable man. He protected this secret until the day he died. Tears filled Mara's eyes. For months she had feared the worst. Now she finally knew. Her husband had not been a thief. He had not been a thief. Murderer. He had protected his friend. And he had protected countless people who would one day need that water. Mara wiped away a tear. Then my husband was innocent. Yes, Dakota answered softly. Completely innocent. Victor lowered his head. The fight was over. The mystery was over. Everything he had chased for years had slipped through his fingers. At sunset, he and his remaining men were taken away to face justice. Peace finally returned to the canyon. Weeks passed, then months. Winter slowly gave way to spring. Flowers appeared along the riverbanks. Children laughed once more. One evening, Mara sat beneath the cottonwood tree where she and Dakota had spoken so many times. The warrior joined her. Neither needed many words anymore. They understood one another. Mara smiled. My children already think of you as family. Dakota laughed softly. I know. They would be very disappointed if you ever left. The warrior looked at her. I do not plan to leave. For a moment neither spoke. Then Mara took his hand, the same hand that had protected her children, the same hand that had carried years of guilt, and honored. The same hand that had chosen mercy instead of revenge. I don't want you to leave either. Dakota's eyes softened. For the first time in many years, the weight he carried was gone. His secret was no longer his burden. His past no longer controlled him. Only the future remained. Several months later, beneath the warm spring sky, Mara and Dakota were married beside the river. Caleb stood proudly beside them. Nora carried flowers. Little Eli grinned from ear to ear. The entire camp celebrated. Music filled the canyon. Laughter echoed through the hills. And as the sun set beyond the mountains, Mara looked at the man she loved. A warrior known for courage, for honesty, for honor. And she realized that the greatest gift he had ever given her was not protection, It was hope. The hope to love again, the hope to trust again, the hope to build a new family from the broken pieces of the old. And together, surrounded by their children and their people, they began the happiest chapter of their lives.